So, Lantern Rite is basically right around the corner, and I keep seeing the same thing in the comments. People are confused about where the free rewards actually come from when they drop, and whether they even count for Phase 1 while Columbina is still on the banner. So in this video, I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to explain where every big Lantern Rite reward comes from, how you claim it, and what I personally expect for Phase 1 versus Phase 2, based on the pattern from last year. If you want to avoid missing free pulls, this is the kind of video you watch once and then you're safe. Let's start with the headline rewards everyone cares about. Lantern Rite always has the same big two sources. 10 pulls from a login event, spread over multiple days. And 1,600 PRIMOGEMS from in-game mail. Together, that's basically 3,200 PRIMOGEMS in value. The problem is the timing. It's never just day 1 of the patch, boom, claim everything. And sadly, I don't think it will be that way this year either. Last year is the perfect example. In the first phase of the patch, we had none of the famous 20 pulls yet. The login event didn't start, and the mail PRIMOGEMS weren't being sent. Then Phase 2 hit, and suddenly everything arrived together. 10 pulls via the login event started around the beginning of Phase 2, and the 1,600 PRIMOGEMS via mail started shortly after, closer to the actual Chinese New Year date. The main Lantern Rite event itself also began in Phase 2, and the part a lot of players still remember. Those 20 pulls basically showed up after the Big Mavwika and Seat Lolly banner hype had already passed, which is why people were upset back then. That is also why I'm saying it could happen again this year. If they align everything closer to the real New Year timing, the huge free pulls might land after the early headline banners instead of during them. So the lesson from last year was simple. Phase 1 was the waiting room. Phase 2 is the payday. Now let's transfer that logic to version 6.3. The patch released yesterday on Wednesday, January 14th. Phase 1 runs from January 14th until February 3rd. Phase 2 runs from February 4th until February 24th. Chinese New Year in 2026 is on February 17th, which is deep into Phase 2. And Lantern Rite tries to line up with that real-world timing. So if Hoyo follows the same pattern as last year, the huge chunk of free pulls and mail PRIMOGEMS should land in Phase 2 again, not Phase 1. That is why I'm personally expecting most of the 10 login pulls and the 1,600 mail PRIMOGEMS to be Phase 2 rewards this year. It also makes sense from a business point of view. They probably don't want to drop Columbina and Anefa in the same phase and then instantly hand out the full reward package right away. They know exactly what they're doing, so it makes sense. But now here's where it gets confusing. Because not everyone agrees. Some people say the 10 pulls might start as early as January 16th with a login event, while the 1,600 PRIMOGEMS would be delivered later during the actual Lantern Rite period. Other people say the full package might already come in the first half, while Columbina is still on the banner, because the dev team wants to keep the early patch hype high. The truth is, nobody can be 100% sure until we see the event page in-game. The special program didn't give exact dates for the mail or the login reward track. So all we can do is work with patterns and calendars. My personal take right now is still that most of the huge free stuff will land in Phase 2, because the real Chinese New Year date is deep into Phase 2. But I'm not claiming that as official fact. If you have better info, or if you spot the event date somewhere, let me know in the comments. I'll pin the correct timing once we know it 100%, because I know how many of you are planning around whether the free 10 pulls happen while Columbina is still in Phase 1. Now we do at least know one thing for sure. The Lantern Rite themed main event itself is scheduled from January 30th until February 23rd. That means it starts at the end of Phase 1 and then runs through almost all of Phase 2. And this main event gives 1,060 PRIMOGEMS. It also gives a free Yao skin. So even if the 10 pulls and mail PRIMOGEMS land late, you still have real Lantern Rite values starting in Phase 1. Just not the entire big 3,200 package at once. And I want to say this clearly. These Lantern Rite numbers are only the Lantern Rite specific rewards. They are not the full patch total. You still get everything else in 6.32. New map PRIMOGEMs, events, resets, abyss, theater, quests, all that stuff. So even if the big free pulls land in Phase 2, Phase 1 is not dry. Now another big Lantern Rite highlight, the free 4-star LUS Selector. This is always one of the best rewards of the whole festival because it directly helps your account. And the best part is that the character list does not change, so if you watched my Selector guide last year, the advice is still the same. The safest picks for most accounts are still Xiangling and Xingqiu. Xiangling is one of the most consistent off-field pyro damage dealers in the game, and getting her closer to Constellation 4 is a huge upgrade because it increases her burst duration. Xingqiu is still the backbone of countless teams because he provides constant hydro application, damage reduction, and very stable support value. If you do not know what to pick, choose one of those two and you basically cannot lose. After that, it depends on what your account needs. Beidou is a solid option for electrocharge style teams with a burst that adds extra electro hits and some protection. Ningguang can work as a geo damage dealer and fits into mono geo ideas, and she's also just fun if you like her style. Chang'an is more niche now, but can still be useful as a cryo enabler for certain melt and freeze setups. Yanfei is a comfy ranged pyro option, especially early, even if she has heavy competition from stronger pyro 5 stars later. Yunjin is a specialized buffer for normal attack teams and shines if you play characters that rely on normal attack speed as their main output. Xinian is still the hardest one to recommend because of her mixed scaling and awkward role, so she's usually the last pick unless you just love her. Yaoao is a very good choice if you need healing plus Dendro application for Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or other Dendro reaction teams. Gaming is one of the strongest 4-star damage dealers if you enjoy his plunge-heavy playstyle and you actually want to learn it. And Lan Yen brings an Anemo shield, which is unique defensive utility for a 4-star. Alright, that's it. Lantern Rite looks generous as always, but the timing is the only confusing part, and the safest expectation is that the big 3,200 package lands closer to Phase 2. Either way, you still have plenty of rewards in 6.3, and the festival content itself starts before Phase 1 ends, so it's not like you're getting nothing early. Let me know what you're most excited about. The free Yaoao skin, the LUS Selector, or the idea of getting those free pulls right before you commit to banners. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.